How are you doing as a leader? Are you scrambling around trying to meet all your obligations, working late? Or are you releasing your people into the ultimate power that they could have? Our theme this month is release, and we're going to start with this fascinating quote on parenting, which I'm going to relay after this break. I first heard this quotation from my friend Ryan, who claims he got it from another source, but we can't find that source, so we're just going to call it anonymous. And the quotation is this: "My job as a parent is not to raise children, but to raise adults." Now, in the context of parenting, what we're talking about here for you and your children is your ultimate goal for them to function independently, to own their own lives, to be responsible for their own growth, to make themselves their number one job so that they can build the right stuff in them to overflow to society and to benefit all? Or is it to protect in such a way that by the time they reach the age of adults, they're not independently functioning adults? And that is just such an interesting thing. So my friend Ryan was the one who quoted this to me a few times, and we've got some ideas of where it might have come from, but we're just going to call it anonymous because we couldn't, when we Googled it, find it exactly. So that makes for very interesting reading. Do we have children who suffer from a failure to launch? Do we have children who suffer from a failure to be equipped and to be released? And I'm saying children, each one is unique. Each one will have his or her own path. And those paths will be littered with all sorts of things. Some, mature very early, some mature a bit later. Some of them, that after maturing, then have hiccups. So there's a whole dynamic there. Now, what then if the exact same thing can be applied to leadership? Where instead of raising up our people to be able to fly, to be able to operate independently, where they have the competence, the confidence, and the motivation to not need you anymore, is that not part of the problem where we end up as leaders doing the work instead of leading? And this is what this release thing is all about in the work context, is that the more we are doing, the less we are leading. And the less we are leading, the less our people are getting ready to fly. And that is the ultimate goal for me of leadership. The ultimate goal is for me to lead to the point where my people don't need me to fully function. And it doesn't mean that we don't stay connected. It doesn't mean we don't team, but it changes the whole conversation when they are empowered to truly fly on their own. They are competent in what they need to do. They are confident. They know that they have your backing, and they are motivated. They are bought in to the vision, to the direction that we're taking. Isn't that an interesting thing? So what about you? Where are you as a leader? Are your people flying? Are they preparing to fly? What are you doing in your interactions that is preparing them to be that kind of person? And you know what? That's something that they ultimately have to decide based on what you did. And I'm reminded of the first Matrix movie, where once Neo had left the Matrix, he'd taken the red pill, he then had a whole lot of training, and we're going to come back to actually one of these quotes later this month from that part of the training. But ultimately, there's this turning point where Neo is stuck in the subway, and Trinity says, "Run, Neo, run," and he doesn't. He turns to the danger, and Trinity turns to Morpheus and says, "What is he doing?" And Morpheus says, "He's beginning to believe." And this was a turning point of the beginning of the release. Neo took that decision, not Morpheus. And later, Neo is dodging bullets. Later, Neo is flying. The leadership reaches a point where it translates to self-leadership. Isn't that the ultimate goal we want as parents? Isn't that the ultimate goal we want as leaders? What about you? What are you doing in your leadership?